Welcome to the Friends of Zeus Oh, I'm sorry. Let me start over.
No, that's great.
Welcome
Do it
to the
again.
Friends of Zeus podcast. This is episode non-numbered, as we've decided we're going to do, not number them. Tonight, it's kind of a conglomeration of all of us kind of talking about something. We wanted to talk about the Maui fires. There's a few different things we can talk about, where they think it started, where the conspiracies come in, the reaction from our government towards the Maui fires, which is not very far off from what happened in Palestine. What was it, Ohio?
Yes,
Illinois?
sir. Ohio.
And several other natural disasters that have happened recently. I guess let's start with the facts. So what, about 5 days ago, the fires started raging? Further back?
August 8th.
Huh? August 8th? Oh.
August 8th is the earliest reported fire.
And it's pretty much devastated Maui. Yeah, like I said, we wanted to just kind of get into that. Where would you guys like to start?
I don't know. I think Mike had some points he wanted to make, unless I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, I can certainly jump in. So originally when this wildfire broke out, I mean, and not when it broke out, but when it really started hitting the news, I didn't think it was a topic necessarily for the Friends of Zeus podcast. Not that it wasn't important and all that, but since then, now that a week has gone by, not only does this story, which is horrific, warrant an episode, but it's got a lot of tentacles, a lot of side stories. Zeus was talking to me today even about like conspiracy theories that are already coming out, but it's a big topic, and it's a touchstone for other topics, that we normally talk about as well. So we figured it would be a good one to do.
I mean, just in the fact that Maui, I would imagine the largest part of their income is, well, meth, followed second by tourism.
I don't think it's meth. Yeah.
All jokes aside, it is more than likely tourism, like Florida.
Yeah, so tourism is a big one. Just to give some context, so Maui is one of the islands that make up the state of Hawaii. It's not the big island that is Hawaii, but it is adjacent to it. It's about 48, and this is from the internet. It's not like I know this, but it's 48 by 26 square miles. And just to give some people some context who haven't been there, if you were in the center of DC, this would extend north to about the Pennsylvania line. Wow. And it would extend south, let's see, to about halfway to Richmond, halfway between DC and Richmond. And it would go out the west to about Dulles Airport, and it would go out the east to about Annapolis. So just to give some context to how big this area is, pretty big area. Maui has a lot of multimillionaire and billionaire folks that reside there that have huge estates that are hundreds of acres. The whole island is about 730 square miles. Again, the first reports of a fire were reported on August 8th. And again, I'm not an expert on Hawaii, but this was in the Kula area, caused primarily by downed power lines. Fast forward a week, these intermittent fires had grown to a point where they were threatening towns and destroying towns pretty quickly, fueled by offshore winds. And I can't remember the name of the hurricane. Was it Dana or Diana? Something like that. Which was actually hundreds of miles away, but the weather system was creating these, fierce winds that were driving this firestorm. So anyway, it happened pretty fast. People in Hawaii, again, I just learned this recently. Wildfires are not uncommon. This was not like from out of nowhere, but the scale obviously was from out of nowhere.
Kind of a perfect storm.
Yes, it's a perfect storm. There's a lot of finger pointing going on now, primarily with the Hawaii Electric, which people are saying, didn't maintain their lines. There is also the local civil service folks that are supposed to have these sirens go off, and they didn't go off because they were primarily designed for tsunamis, and they were second guessing themselves because they didn't want to set them off and have people run inland, which is where the fires were. And then you also had the local municipalities that were not allowing the fire departments, which were requesting to draw water from ponds and lakes and those sorts of places, and they were turned down due to environmental reasons.
Why can't they draw from the ocean? Is there something wrong with salt water?
I don't know. My assumption is that salt water would corrode firefighting equipment, but for something of this scale, like corrode the equipment, you know what I mean? In my opinion. But again, I'm not an expert. I'm just telling you these are things I've kind of looked at. Where this started to take on, it was a national story because unbeknownst to many people, Hawaii is a state in the United States. The people that live in Hawaii are Americans, obviously. I'm half joking, but if you look at our media, they act like it's like some other faraway place, Anyway, so you have that whole thing, but the thing that really turned up the heat on it, like a lot of things today,
was it the fire?
It was because we have a completely stupid, crazy presidential administration that just can't seem to get out of its own way or handle anything properly. And they decided in their infinite wisdom that it would be a good idea to send Joe Biden on vacation for a few weeks while this was going on. And again, listen, personally,
why didn't you go to Hawaii?
Personally, I'm just saying, personally, I don't get the whole thing of like,
wants to go to Hawaii.
I know, why not go to Hawaii? It's like the perfect
2 birds, 1 stone.
That's right, too.
Listen, I don't get the whole thing of there's a disaster and we have to send the president there. Like, that's just me. Whatever. People make that argument. I get it. If you think you should go, fantastic. I'm not one of those people. But if that's the norm, he definitely blew that norm out of the water. And he went not on 1, but on 2 vacations between last week and when he finally got his butt over there.
Yeah, so, no, Mike, on top of that, it's not like he didn't. I guess what I'm saying is not only did he go on vacation, but the press and the media even reported it. It wasn't like a secret. And when one of the reporters got to him on the beach and said, "Yeah, can you tell me something about the situation in Hawaii? What are your feelings
No
on it?"
comment.
He just said no comment.
He just
And
said, yeah.
I mean, that was it. That was his presidential, and you think back to George W. Bush with Katrina, like just the callousness that he was accused of and just the disregard.
Flying over Louisiana in Air Force One, and there's that famous picture of him looking out the window,
yeah,
and they used that to like pillory him.
Yeah.
And in retrospect, the guy was kind of I hate to say it, but he was kind of a good guy. Like he was actually maybe more patriotic than a lot of presidents that we've had in the last few decades. He just,
I mean, the one thing,
but he got blasted for the Katrina thing, and Biden, they don't make a comment about it.
They don't make a comment. And the one, I just gotta say this, Zeus, because this is like volleyball and you just set it up. I'm like, the one thing that I expect and I don't count as an added bonus is that our president is patriotic. Like, to me that kind of comes with the job. Like, I don't, it's not like, man, this president was great and he was patriotic. Like, to me,
yes, it should be a given. But
I'm just saying.
Argue that recent presidents, not naming any, but recent presidents, probably even Trump to a certain degree, only apply that patriotism where they feel it fits. It's not like Kennedy or Reagan. I mean, undoubtedly patriots. I just I find it alarming that yes, like you said, that you have to even distinguish,
qualify it.
Yeah.
So this and just before we jump off, I mean, just as this is the end of my intro, the reason this kind of became a story is it's not. This is one of many situations that this administration has completely failed, right? So we have this administration waiting 2 weeks to get to Maui, and when Biden gets there today, he's remarking at the boots that are on the cadaver dogs and being like, "Oh man, this ground is really hot. That's why the dogs have the boots on them."
He's a doddering old man.
He's a doddering old. I mean, back at the Nashville shooting,
did he have like a story about how his kitchen caught on fire.
His kitchen, and it threatened his cat and his '67 Corvette. I mean, back during the Nashville shooting, he made an ice cream joke.
Yeah,
I mean, who in the hell is running the show? I mean, that's what I would like to know.
Yeah,
I mean, it's alarming.
I'll tell you who. His last name starts with an O.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I didn't used to think that, Jack, but that is where I've come around to. I mean, how many presidents?
Wait a second. Just on that note, I'm going to see if I can find it on YouTube, which we all know how difficult it is to find anything disparaging about the party on YouTube these days.
Almost impossible.
They make it impossible. But I remember seeing a video from an interview that Obama did with, I want to say, CBS.
You know, and they said,
and they said something like, "Well, wouldn't you want to run for a third term?" And he said, "No." He said, "But I'll tell you this: it would be nice to not have some of the responsibilities of the job, but still basically be able to make some policy calls and be,
Yeah.
And so, in other words, I want a third term without it being a third term.
And who wouldn't, right? I mean,
right.
I mean, I get it. That makes total sense. Like, you don't have to do all the crap.
Right.
But you still get the power.
Yeah, totally. I mean,
and is there anyone that doesn't believe that he is still holding that power? I mean, listen, if you look at the sycophants on in our media and in our
in our world.
bureaucracy, in our world. And do you think that if they got a call from Barack Obama that they would not operate in lockstep, like that they would not be like, yes sir, and like, I mean, they adore that man like he is the second coming of Christ. I mean, with all due respect, I mean, they do. I mean,
he delivers himself far better than, honestly, Biden or Trump. As far as his delivery,
I think it's well, this maybe the sycophants on the ground, like the ones that we come across day to day in our lives. Those are the ones you're talking about that are swayed by his charisma and his skills as a politician. But as far as the media and the politicians themselves, I think they're just in lockstep with his vision. I really do. I think they're true believers. I think they're still in the DOJ. They were doing deals with him before. They're everywhere.
You would almost call that like let's see, I'm trying to think of a term, like maybe like the deep state or the permanent government or the bureaucracy. Yeah. I mean, listen,
or it's also like a nicer, kinder version of fascism.
Yes. I mean, most presidents, when they leave the presidency, they go back where they came from, right? So, Reagan went out to California. Clinton or Bush went to where? Kennebunkport or Texas? Clinton, Texas. Clinton went up to New York, I think, but at least out of DC.
She wanted to be a senator, so she had to get an address in New York.
Bush Jr. went to Texas. You know where Barack Obama went? He went to
Martha's Vineyard.
Well, Colorama. Like, I know his address. Like, I have a client about 7 houses down from his house. He's still in DC. This man did not leave DC. He has a house in DC. He has a house in Hawaii, which getting back Martha's Vineyard.
Martha's Vineyard, yeah.
And let's get this back to Hawaii. Like, here's something, and someone else said this, not me. I mean, I got to give. It's not. I'm not the one thinking about this, but they were like, "Where's Obama?" He's like Hawaii's poster boy. And these fires are going on. Have you heard anything from him at all?
That's something I was going to say. Most presidents, after their term, stay in the spotlight. Every so often they pop up. And he has been absent from the news.
About Hawaii, where he ostensibly grew up.
For the whole Biden administration, how many times do you see any words?
He didn't even endorse Biden. I mean, until the very end.
No, but listen, what I'm saying is that he is different in that he is kind of like stayed out of the spotlight. Like, even Trump is constantly been in the news throughout the Biden administration. You can go back to any other president. Clinton was staying in the news after his administration for a while, for whatever, fixing up Harlem,
Biden or Obama doesn't have to stay in the news himself because all of his people are in the government right now. Like Susan Rice. I mean, all the people in the Biden administration, they're all Obama people.
Out of sight, out of mind is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, he is getting his third term.
Yeah.
Albeit 4 years later than planned.
And it's and they don't want it to end ever.
So I want to take this to more of a place of levity with all this. I'll stand out of the way, but look at these pictures behind me. These are I want to talk conspiracies, and I will.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, Zeus. Before we go to the to the comedic conspiracies, there are some other ones. I mean, there are some people. I guess there actually have been a lot of busts of like climate change activists starting fires. Have you guys heard about that? I heard about that today on one of the podcasts.
That's one of the ones that I heard about.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, that one is serious. I mean, that's what you had mentioned, like that sort of comedic, but that one I've actually heard has some credibility to it. not to say that they are responsible for anything that happened here. It's pretty.
No, not at all.
It seems to be ineptitude by the administration of that area. But I know they even were. Some reporter was blasting the mayor
Yeah.
today, basically asking for the number of missing children, and
Right.
he said he didn't know or
Yeah.
something, or he tried to like
So
obfuscate somehow.
and I want and Zeus told me what he wanted to talk about, and I want to get to that ASAP because it's super interesting. But just to follow up on what you're saying, Jack, and I just learned this today too. But
And again, let's
when
reiterate
these-
that from this point on, we're talking about conspiracies. We know they're conspiracies. They are not fact.
yeah, we're not trying to promote
For
them,
humor's sake.
but this what I'm about to say is not a conspiracy. That's why I want to like finish with this and then get to that.
Sure.
Last Tuesday, when this really started hitting the fan in Maui, at least, I mean, I have a hard time even talking about this, but the schools sent children home to their homes, and then they did not have these sirens or any sort of alarm systems going off. And to what Jack's saying,
Keep the children.
What?
That's where people would be going to shelter.
Well, they sent the children home, and to what Jack's saying, this reporter who was asking like how many children has died, it's not just a polemic. The fact is, they shut the schools down and sent the kids home, and a lot of the parents were at work. So you have hundreds. I mean, the official number is like 150, but
Kids?
people that have died. But when you count all the children and all the people that are still missing, it's like over 1,000. It's like 1,100, 1,200 souls. Yeah. And a lot of them are children. And this reporter was asking the mayor of Maui how many children, and he was being very coy. And that's what made the reporter start kind of cursing them out and everything. So this thing, I mean, we're doing this podcast on August 22nd, and this thing really started hitting the fan a week ago on the 15th, and there's still hundreds, if not 1,000 or more people unaccounted for, many of them children. I mean, this is can you imagine this happening anywhere? I mean, this is in Hawaii. It's the United States. I mean, what if this was Baltimore or Hoboken or Fairfax or whatever?
Or DC.
I mean, this is horrible,
Yeah.
and it's like it's being cut. What's behind me in these pictures? These are refrigerator morgue trucks that are being sent, that are going to or in Hawaii. I mean, this is a lot of people, man. I mean, this isn't like 50 people. It's not 150 people. It's 1,000 to 2,000 plus people.
Mm-hmm.
It harkens back to 9/11 and COVID, when I think, wasn't it COVID where they were like, just like they couldn't keep track of all the bodies, so they started putting them on trucks, and there was
they did that in COVID too.
Yeah. And I think it's all too common of a picture. Let's throw some refrigerator trucks out there, get people focused on that. I think there's so much misdirection with everything now. It's, again, I've said it before, but pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. This is going on over here. What's going on over there, though? You know what I mean?
But I do. And Zeus, I'm not minimizing it. Like these conspiracy things that you're talking about, I want to hear them. Like let's throw some air at it because it's interesting.
Well, I'll go through a list and we can pick and choose what we want to talk about. Some of the ones I've heard of are, what do they call them? Direct energy weapons, which I looked, and it appears that with that they're talking about lasers, microwave weapons,
Yeah,
and other things like that. Aliens, of course, because aliens hate the tropics. Let's see. Land grabs by Oprah and Jeff Bezos, which I think is just hilarious. What else was there? So this goes back to like Palestine in Ohio, and there were several like not natural disasters, but industrial disasters
Mhm.
at that time. And that's around when I remember you started hearing them talk about how they want to build these e-cities that are run completely by AI, and that now this I don't want to be quoted on this, but apparently there were laws that were passed around that time that when a certain locale is considered, I guess, devastated or unlivable, that the government can kind of sweep in and take over that land to do with as they please. Now, this is not necessarily an industrial disaster, but again, the land is going to be unlivable for a while. So I found that was an interesting aspect of this. And although I do believe it's a conspiracy, the way things are going these days, if it did come out to be true, I also wouldn't be surprised. They're really, really pushing towards these, I guess you could call them e-cities. You've been hearing more and more about it over the last, 2-3 years. Am I correct?
Yeah, they're doing it through zoning laws.
Yeah. And that's probably where this comes in. But I mean, like with these pictures, okay, the one in the middle is obviously a laser from space.
That's pretty intense.
But the other ones look like flares from the camera. Like, you know what I'm talking about? Where
yeah,
just catch it right, and you get a ray that comes out of it, and all of them are clearly nonsense. But it does cause one to question, could this happen? And here's the interesting thing: when we're talking about it, we're probably thinking us that we did it, to take over the lands. If you're into the conspiracy and you buy it, but what if it was China or Russia or some other country that has satellites in space and have the technological?
And is it possible? I mean, again, right with the thing that happened in Hawaii, there was again, I'm not a meteorologist, but there was a hurricane that was creating stronger than normal winds that were helping the spread of this wildfire. So it wasn't just the ignition, right? It was the conditions that helped it spread. But to your point, Zeus, I mean, and kind of tying this back to the party, because I have to, we look to these people for answers and they don't have them, and look at what the answers are that they're coming out with. I mean, you're saying, hey, this may be directed energy weapons, and we're sitting here on the Friends of Zeus podcast and we're like, maybe, but maybe not, or is this crazy to even think about?
No, I'll go as far as say.
Wait, what's your point?
But my point is that we have elected officials that are like, this is due to climate change. This is due to XYZ. Mm-hmm. This is due to the energy company. And everyone just kind of follows in lockstep. And I'm like, well, that's kind of crazy too. Right? I mean,
how do you trust them, for one? Two, anything they can blame on climate change, Mike,
they're going to.
We already talked about ESG being central to the globalist sort of vision.
I don't even get why.
I don't know, because if you create a worldwide scare to shut down industries in countries one by one, you have a better ability to control them.
Yeah, I mean, as Mark Levin has said, it's like a degrowth movement. But
right.
But I mean, even with is it you look at a conspiracy like, okay, it's directed energy weapons. But then when you look at like our betters, right? The people in control, and they're like, oh, it's because of all these other things. It's like, is it? I mean, I looked at Hurricane Hillary, who, as Zeus pointed out, destroyed over 30,000 emails, which was one of the best memes I've ever seen. But Hurricane Hillary came and beat a path through LA. And for anyone that's been to LA, they're not used to that kind of rain. That place isn't built for that. And I look, it's like, oh, this has never happened. This is what I'm hearing. Well, like we do on the Friends of Zeus podcast, I looked up and found out, has this happened before? Tropical storm hitting LA? And it did, like in the 50s, like not even that long ago, of comparable strength, not a hurricane. So this happened in the 50s. What's that, 70 plus years ago?
Yeah.
So in the Industrial Revolution started in the late 1800s. So my point is, they kind of like push that away. They keep saying it's unprecedented. It's very precedented. I don't know if that's the right word, but I'm saying it has happened before. And to look at this thing in Hawaii and immediately jump to, it's global warming, it's this, it's this, it's this. I'm like, you know what it is? It's the bureaucracy not letting water being used by the fire department, not having the alarms go off because they thought it would be a bad look.
It'll scare people.
It'll scare people. Having the electrical company like not maintaining their lines because they have to like do all this other stuff. Whatever. I mean, there's a million things it could be. But it really gets to what Zeus said on the very first episode of this podcast. It is, and I didn't quite understand what he was saying originally, but I get it. And this is a perfect example. It is choreography. It is, we have a narrative, we have a viewpoint.
Wait for it to happen, and
we're waiting for it to happen, and then we're going to use it as our music.
I think it's actually, when you talk conspiracies, and I'm using that term loosely, I think it's a far more effective way to control situations, to prepare for those situations, obviously in positive ways, but on the more sordid side, in bad ways. How can we capitalize on this? How can we make money off this? How can we make the puppets dance? I mean, yeah, I'll take credit for that. I think it's more choreography than it is conspiracy, because conspiracies are only ever going to succeed if there's one person behind it, because any larger amount than one, you're risking somebody talking. That's why the 9/11 stuff is just nonsense. Thermite paint and we were behind it. No, it was what it was. A bunch of fanatics got into two planes. Our guard was down, and they flew them into two buildings. Three, sorry. I mean, even if you look at like the Pentagon, they followed 395. It doesn't take a genius or an expert pilot to fly straight for a couple miles and dive. That happened, and then we turned it into something, a war that went on for what, 20 years, close to 20 years
plus.
Yeah,
22.
So and as most people know, the biggest boom to a society tends to be war. You're producing, then you have the spoils of war and all that. So yeah, I don't call this conspiracy. It could be choreographed. Let's see what comes out of this. what new laws are passed, you know, for instance, yes, they could blame it on all these other things and say that we didn't load down the trucks with salt water because it would be corrosive, the fire trucks and all that. But you also have the
I'm just
helicopters.
guessing. Yeah.
Well, you also have the helicopters that drop it. What's going to get corroded there? A couple chains, maybe the bars that hold those big bags until they can open them. But wouldn't it be better to, if you know, if you want to pull in money out of this, you say we have to replace all that equipment because it was damaged. But no, there's more profit somewhere else. Because to me, the logical choice would be screw the equipment.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you're not, the equipment is meant to save lives. If you ruin the equipment on a catastrophic, massive fire, great. That's what it's for. You know, it's not like, oh man, we got to save the fire trucks. That's not what they were there for. But I am, I mean, not to jump, but I am interested in this conspiracy thing just to explore it, you know, for what it is. I mean, these energy weapons. I mean, what have you found out?
I mean, we're looking at it. I mean, it's just pictures with flares, and
okay,
that could clearly be doctored. I think the directed energy weapons is complete nonsense. Watch this one be the one that is real, and we
right. That's what I'm saying. It's not like we have a bad track record. We have a very good track record.
But I would think that if these weapons were available, we would have seen them used in Afghanistan or somewhere else. I mean, the new nuke, the inspire fear across the world kind of situation. War seems like an opportune time to do something like that. So do I believe it's directed energy weapons? Not at all. Now, after the fact, the land grab things like Oprah, Jeff Bezos, I can wrap my head around that, like, you know, but that's not so much that they caused it, but that they were opportunistic and took advantage of it. Wow, that land's going for a fucking dime an acre. I'll go grab some of that up, and then, you know, 30 years from now, my kids will benefit from it, or my legacy.
Yeah. Well, isn't it also, I mean, just to me, it wasn't hard to swallow. I mean, like the conspiracy theorist in me, you know, was like, oh, it's environmental terrorists. I could see that. They've busted them before. And they've even tried to blow up like power plants. And some people say they were responsible for the derailment. And you guys may remember like a year or two ago, there were stories about like food mills and farms and the like being blown up or set on fire.
Yeah.
So there's that whole underground conspiracy that the news doesn't really report on, because they why would they want to report on environmental terrorists? You know, it goes against the narrative. But it's also not hard for me to believe reasonably, though, that if the conditions weren't kept up right, that a shoddy electrical plant could be responsible for the spark that starts the fire. And then you combine that with a dim-witted administration, like you guys were talking about, how to deal with the fire.
And hurricane force winds.
It's not hard to just see the obvious, that it's not lasers, it's not terrorists.
Lasers.
It's just a poorly run government responding to a natural disaster, you know?
And Jack, I mean, that is...
It just makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit it out of the park with that. I mean, the way I look at this, this situation,
this does lean towards choreography and not conspiracy.
But I'm just saying, if no conspiracy, like this is, you know, a natural phenomena that this happened. Okay. We have politicians, we have people in the bureaucracy that are like, you got to do this, you got to pay this tax, you got to like this, you can't water your lawn on Tuesdays, you got to use electric car, you got to have this, you got to have like 1.2
stove.
gallon per flush toilet. You got to have electric stove. Not
yeah.
that. Like, we're going to take care of you. And then the shit hits the fan. And they're like, you know what it is? We don't have enough regulations. Like, there's zero accountability, right? And I'm not saying that this is necessarily the government's fault, but not allowing the fire department to use the water, not sounding the sirens, not clearing out the dead wood to prevent these fires from becoming catastrophic.
It points towards local ineptitude,
and
then because
more.
of that, we need broader strokes across the country.
What I'm saying is, this gets into this whole existential debate that we are having as a country right now, which is individual liberty versus government control. And it's like the government and the bureaucracy always wants to jump in like they have all the answers. And that's great. There's a lot of smart people in the government, but there's no accountability. Like, if I could just make mandates that everyone had to follow, and then when the shit hit the fan and I was wrong, I could just escape culpability, that would be fantastic. That would be well, that's our government. That's what they do. And so my whole thing is, it's like, let's examine this from a point of, where did things go wrong through the bureaucracy? That's not the conversation that they want to have. No one wants to have, the media doesn't want to have that conversation. No. The party doesn't want to have that conversation. And I'm not even saying it's their fault, but they don't even want to look at that. You know, they want to look at everything else. And it's like, what does Jack have to give up to prevent this from happening? What does Zeus have to give up to prevent this from happening in the future? And it's like, and the choreography, Zeus, I feel, is from these people that are seeking this omnipotent control, right? They're just like, they're waiting for things that normally happen, and then they're like, well, you need to listen to us more. It's like, well, we did listen to you, and you fucked up. Oh no, that was a whole different thing. But now I know. Now listen to me. Now here's the rules.
Yeah, the only thing that's going to prevent this is more environmental regulation.
Right. We need more of it.
More of it.
That's what I was getting at. Is that you let this happen, you let the local ineptitude reinforce the need for federal involvement. Like, obviously these little guys can't take care of their shit. So
we need a bigger federal government.
Right.
Yeah.
So
we need more oversight. Yeah. Which is that's why I thought this subject was, again, the Maui fires by themselves are horrible and compelling, but it has really shown a light on a lot of other things in our society and with our government, where this idea, and I don't understand it, and I know people, I have dear friends that believe that the government is looking out for them in their best interests and is there to protect them. And it's not. That's a lie. They're not there to help you. They are there to control you. And when shit hits the fan, they are like the boyfriend that disappears when you find out you're pregnant. That is the federal government.
Well,
I mean, that's who they are.
Here's another observation. Like, so back when there was the big rush on the border, the southern border, and all these kids were getting lost and all this other stuff, it was news on a daily basis until it suddenly wasn't. Like, the media mainly, you use it until it's no longer getting them the clicks, or until whatever they were truly aiming for has petered out. There's no more profit from it. And then they find the next thing. It's again, we've said this before, but on a grand scale, it's, oh my God, it's going to snow. We need more toilet paper, milk, and bread.
Mm-hmm.
Which you don't, because most people have enough food to last for a couple of days. You might be eating refried beans, but you're going to eat. And if not, you're going to throw on extra warm clothes and if you have to, break into a restaurant. I mean, whatever you need to do. We're survivors. You will get through, at least in Virginia, where we're constantly getting told that it's going to snow, and why we keep falling for it, I don't know.
It's a lie.
Right. But I think this is just on a grand scale, it's just a repeat of all that. Got to get more bread, got to get more toilet paper kind of thing. Remember when COVID was in its peak and people were fighting over masks and toilet paper and bread and milk? We are such sheep at times that, again, it's where I say conspiracies because I want to make sure that it's clear that we are saying that these are not real situations, but they are compelling because our trust in our government and our media is at an all-time low.
That's true.
Even when people hated Reagan, but you know what? They didn't do this. They didn't just pummel him. Even with the Iran-Contra scandal, he walked away, just dusted off his jacket and moved on, and then drooled in his own lap for the last year. But we have turned things into this just, there's this constant volatility. I wonder what the doomsday clock is at right now. I'm thinking it's at like 11:59 and 48 seconds. I worry about what's going on these days.
You should.
I mean, I don't know. I don't think nuclear war or anything like that's going to be anything we have to worry about. I still think that
internally.
I think it's going to be more information based. It's going to be those things.
Listen, the current administration is trying to put in prison their greatest rival in the next election. That is disgusting. I don't think people understand how insane things are right now. That's why I sent that text. Yeah.
If you think about some of the stories even that we've covered since, the takeover, I mean, the massive wave of illegal migration that Zeus referenced. I mean, that's literally changing the country. Literally.
They don't talk about it anymore because
the fact that we were this close to Congress having a federal disinformation board.
That's right, Mary Poppins.
Yeah, Mary Poppins. That happened in this country. And the only reason it failed was because they realized we're better off not advertising this because we're going to do it anyway. And they have done it. And they have done it anyway. And the reason why there's no press that's asking all the questions, Mike, and the reason why there's distrust, the reason why there's distrust of everything right now, Zeus, is because the press and the government, they all play for the same team.
They are the same team.
They are. I mean, think about TV media is owned by corporations that play ball with these ESG people.
And they go back and forth. They leave government and enter the press, and they leave the press and enter the government. Yeah. They're all playing for the same team. And then you got people in the middle of the country, the red states, quote unquote, the people that are all just Bible clinging, gun toting hicks. They're the ones who are just watching their country eat itself from the coast. Look, the guy that I want to vote for to be president,
Don Lemon
is
that's the other big story.
Is facing
hundreds of
having
years
to make bail and facing hundreds of years in prison. I'm not saying this to be provocative, and I'm not saying this to be whatever, but if he's put in jail or kept from running for president, I'm not sitting on my couch and just being okay with that. And neither are millions and millions of other people. And I'm not saying that I would be violent because I'm not a violent person, but I'm not just going to be like,
would blow up.
I'm like, oh, okay, that's okay. That's not happening. And we are right there. We're right there.
Yeah.
Like before,
Yeah.
a few years ago, we could talk about all this theoretically, but now it's right here. Are you okay having this bureaucracy tell you who you can and cannot vote for president? I mean,
Well,
this is a
so
rhetorical question. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not
I'm not
okay
either.
with that at all. And there are
I'm not either,
consequences to that.
well, the thing is, the damage will be done. I don't think they can do anything to stop millions of people from voting for Trump. I just think they're doing everything that's going to convince maybe a few million not to bother at all.
They try to put him in jail, it's going to be
no, I'm
a
just
big
saying,
problem.
like, even if it's not that, even if he gets to run, and even if he's not incarcerated by that point, because I don't think it'll come to that by the time the election. I mean, that's ridiculous.
I think it will. I hope you're right. I hope you're right.
What I'm saying is they've already tampered with an election anyway, because they basically convinced millions of people stay home. I think they have. I think they have. I think people have just had enough, and they're not gonna. And they think it's over. They're like me, and they're like it's over. Like, you know what I mean? And they're not gonna bother. But then there's also going to be a lot of people, like the people that you're not, because you're not a violent person. There's going to be people out there like that too.
100%. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah. I mean, January 6th is going to look like a walk in the park. Some people are going to be outraged.
And
here's my thing. I do not think Trump is the answer. I've never really cared much for him. My opinions of him have improved, but I really would like to see a younger.
But don't you see, and Zeus, I get you, but don't you see that he is the target? Like, don't you see? Do you want this bureaucracy choosing for you? I mean,
no. I first of all,
if you pick the most perfect person you can think of, they're going to destroy him or her.
Here's my thing. Here's my spin. I don't think it's going to happen because regardless of who is in charge of the media and the government and all that, to imprison or jail a president, a former or standing president, will dilute the worldview of our power. We will look more like buffoons than ever before.
Agreed. Agreed. So, and they're looking to do that, Zeus. They're looking to do that. Like, no joke.
Doing that now.
They want Thursday. They want to do that now. They want to do that.
I'm telling you, odds are it will not happen because
odds are it will happen.
They're doing.
I'm sorry to say.
I don't
odds
think
are it's going to happen.
I'm saying that Democrats in charge or Republicans in charge to any president, Obama, Bush, fucking any of them, to imprison any of them from an American standpoint, even if you're liberal or conservative, it does not do well for us in the arena of the world.
I hope your opinion represents the majority, Zeus.
No, I know it has nothing to do with that.
I hope it does.
This is all smoke and mirrors. We're paying attention to this. It's just another choreographed situation.
They have him on like 100 charges, Zeus. This is not theoretical anymore.
They will find a way to not imprison him for it. He'll pardon himself. Something will happen to prevent him from going to jail. I don't see it happening. I understand what you're saying, but
I wish you were right. I hope you're right. I really do.
Yeah,
I really hope you're right.
I don't think
the other thing. If they imprison him, it will be a civil war. What?
I don't think the choreographers of this dance give a shit about him, and I don't think he's part of the fucking. I think that they threw everything at him to make sure that he could possibly not win or not run, and
Now
that's what they're doing.
that I buy into.
But you don't think they'd lock him up?
Nah.
It will. What if he doesn't post bail?
Come on.
They said, listen, on Thursday he's supposed to post $200,000 bail.
He can do
Why would they put bail on a former president of the United States? If he doesn't post bail, what happens?
Why wouldn't he, Mike?
He's gonna post bail. It's 200,000.
Why would he? I mean, I wouldn't. I'd be like, come, let's go. What are you gonna do? Put me in jail? With the Secret Service protection in the jail? I mean, look, at some point, this stuff is going to start getting real, and we're getting very close to it. And I think Thursday, I don't know. I mean, look, Trump is unpredictable. Why would he post bail? Why post bail? Why do that?
Well, because I think he thinks he can win on his own merits without being a martyr. I think he likes the nicer things in life, Mike, and I don't think he's about to sacrifice that.
No,
and
that's a good point.
Mike, I also think he wants to travel the country and go to rallies and meet, go in front of the people and give these great speeches that only end up on YouTube with Turning Point and all these other like conservative platforms.
What would they do if he didn't? Is my point. You have a county in Georgia.
No, they'd lock him up.
But how? Like, would the Secret Service allow? I mean,
yeah, they'd figure it out.
I'm saying this is the party, man. This is what they give you. It's like this is what we're talking about now. It's completely insane.
It's funny to me. I heard this one story because I always look at Trump. Trump was the big threat that they had to get out of there as soon as possible, thus Russia, right? They had to just get that guy out of there, and they did everything they could. It's because he was an outsider. He wasn't one of these Harvard guys. He wasn't part of the political. He wasn't a hedge fund guy. You know what I mean? Like, he was this brash playboy from New York City, who had
he's not part of their game, man.
No, he's not part of the machine. And the stuff he was saying leading up to the 2016 election was scaring the bejesus out of them. Correct. And they thought we can't let this guy actually get and whatever, he won. And that made me think of the story that I heard. Speaking of another outsider who's trying to become president of the United States, that guy, He's a Black American professor. He's an author. His name is oh gosh, I had it. Cornel West.
Cornel West. He's a Democrat.
Okay. He's a Democrat and he's running for president. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I heard a story that he just got audited for $500,000.
I don't doubt it. And the thing about Cornel West, and I've known about him for years, decades.
Yeah. He's outspoken on a lot.
He's outspoken, but he's consistent. Like, look, the Michael rules are this: be sincere and be consistent. He's sincere and he's consistent. I completely disagree with him, but I would never say that Cornel West is in the pocket of somebody like I would Joe Biden.
No,
I wouldn't say he's trying to pull a fast one. I mean, if you look at Cornel West now and Cornel West 20 years ago, he's been saying the same shit the whole time. Right. So God love him. I disagree with him, but yeah, I have no doubt that he's being audited or it's crazy.
There's the other outsider. Okay, who used to be one of the fucking Mount Rushmore families of the Democratic Party,
RFK Jr.
I
really like him.
And they're already and he's kind of an outsider to them.
Yeah, man.
He's never been an insider, and so they're afraid of him too, and they're going to crucify him.
The anti-Trump. He goes up against big business. does things.
Look, I believe he loves
RFK
America.
Jr.
I
Right.
believe
Yeah.
RFK loves America. I don't believe that Biden does. And I mean, RFK Jr. has already talked about like, well,
Vaccine.
the CIA and I, we don't really necessarily get along. I mean,
What about
if
the
you
vaccines?
But he's
the
not an
vaccines,
anti-vaxxer. He's not an anti-vaxxer. He's a pro-research guy.
Right, but
He's made it very clear.
guys, I mean, not to get into his like platform. My only point was that he's not one of them. They
no.
know it, and they're gonna shred him too. They're not gonna go after him with like 5 indictments or whatever, like Trump.
Can you imagine
But
like Trump
they're gonna go
and then
after him.
RFK as vice president on that ticket? Can you
Yeah.
imagine how fucking amazing that would be?
Yeah, RFK already said he'd never do it.
Oh, he did.
Here's
Yeah,
the
he did.
thing. Jason
Crap.
was telling me. Jason
I
was
think that
telling
would be killer, man.
That would be great.
I was talking to Jason, and he was saying that the party. God, now I'm saying it.
Yeah, you should.
Has been fiddling with laws to make it so that he can't be part of the DNC in certain states, like New Hampshire, like
Yeah, they're trying to keep him off the ballot.
right. Yeah. Which I mean, he could always go independent, but that's never gonna.
No.
Yeah. I do like him a lot. He's done real things that he can prove. Like the one thing that stands out is the Hudson. He like cleaned the Hudson, and it was only like 25 years ago that we were watching Seinfeld, and they were talking about how filthy and disgusting it was. And now they're talking about finding animals that they haven't found in 100 years in the Hudson. So like he's done real things, and he's doing things in the Potomac right now, like to help clean that up. He's going after big business. I like a guy that goes after big business, man.
I mean, I'm just saying,
like, not to get off the subject too much. I think his name's like Rav Mishwani.
Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yes,
he's a.
Boy, did I fucking butcher his name? Sorry,
Vivek Ramaswamy. Yeah, he's an
interesting
Republican. He is an interesting cat. I will give you that.
I'm hard pressed to find anything I don't like about the guy.
He's very new on the scene. I have a lot of questions and questions that lead to more questions, but there's a lot to like. There's a lot that I'm a little like, I need some more answers on too. I mean, I'm all about watching the debate. What is that, tomorrow? I think the Republican debate. I don't know. I mean, getting back to the fires, I'm just like, we have this situation where the powers that be proselytize and say here's what needs to be done, and then you have this horrible event happen, which I'm not blaming on anyone, and to them it's just grist for the mill. And to me, I'm like, look, here this situation is pointing out glaring problems with what you have told me before. This situation is pointing out failures that you have put of things that you've put forth previously, and your answer is to put the kibosh on what I'm saying and just say, oh, okay, well, it's not enough regulations, we got to do this, and this. And I'm like, no, stop. This thing happened, your solutions failed, and we need other answers. But they don't want to have that conversation. And neither does the party media.
Here's an interesting question. What do you think that Hawaii's biggest export is? I know what I thought it was, and it will make sense when I say it. But
I don't know. I should know, and I don't know.
Jack, do you have any clue?
No, not at all. Not Hawaii.
Well, I would have thought sugar. Something along those lines. Something that thrives in a tropical or warm climate. But no, and this brings a whole nother conspiracy thought process into it. The state's largest manufacturing export category is petroleum and coal products.
Wow. I would
303 million of Hawaii's total goods exports in 2018.
Wow.
Now for those electric car
Good work,
guys,
Zeus.
for all those electric car guys and all the what's the mineral whatever that they're having people
Cobalt.
Cobalt. For all the people that don't want you paying attention to that, have we heard about that in about a week and a half, 2 weeks, maybe?
No.
They're never going to talk about that.
No.
But I find it interesting that a state that's largest export.
Zeus, that's amazing. I didn't know that. I wonder if oil is like offshore, but even if it is, like coal has to be onshore.
They're not gonna fly it to California to refine it. They're gonna do it at the closest.
Wow.
Land. So
wow, man.
I don't know where to go with that.
That's what I was going to ask you. Like, how does that feed the conspiracy? Like, what's the government up to, or what?
Well, we lost all this coal. We lost all this oil. We really need to have more electric cars, and so all these kids that are dying in South American countries aren't as important because we lost all this.
They're not important to them anyway. I mean, obviously.
Yeah, but this validates their disinterest in coal, and everybody, people are pushing away from coal because there's more money in the electric cars. They want to have every car in California by 2030 be electric or something like that. I don't remember the exact thing, but I find it interesting that is the largest export from Hawaii.
That's amazing.
I don't know where it lies in the choreography or conspiracy of this, but it certainly is interesting. Don't you think?
I do.
Yeah, totally.
And
another way to get people to stop relying on coal and oil is to completely make it so expensive they can't do it anymore. And then they give you financial incentives to go electric or go whatever way they want you to go, and you can't afford the fucking oil anyway and the gasoline, so you're gonna do it.
Yeah,
how could you not?
3 million, that's a lot of money. From a relatively small state in the grand scheme.
I couldn't get over how big it was when Mike described it. I was like, I had no idea.
Oh, Maui?
But it's really not that big.
That's still pretty small. I mean, Pennsylvania line to halfway between DC and Richmond. And then what was the west? Dulles Airport to Annapolis. Yeah,
so
it's still pretty small.
Yeah, I don't know. It just seems big for, I don't know.
735 square miles.
Yeah, it's bigger than I guess I thought it was.
And it's an interesting state in that.
I mean, just that Maui is. I'm not talking about all of Hawaii. Just Maui is that big.
Okay.
And another interesting thing, I would assume, I could be wrong, but I don't imagine that there are bridges from each island to each island. I imagine that they
helicopters.
Helicopters, boats, ferries, things like that. I have the feeling that lack of transportation could fall in.
A lot of people went into the ocean.
Yeah, I know. I saw that.
And drowned. Trying to escape this thing.
I prediction, I don't know how it's going to come into play, but I really do feel like later on we're going to be talking about how their largest export is coal and petroleum products. And
I'm just saying
they may not broadcast what that has to do with whatever the goal of it is. I mean,
but we'll see it because we're hard nosed.
Look, I'm old enough to remember how, and I'm no fan of George W. Bush, but I'm old enough to remember how the party media treated him.
Yeah.
After Katrina. Can you imagine if there was a Republican president right now, and there's 1,000+ people still missing, and the majority are expected to be children, how that would be played. And right now, it's like you turn on the news, and it's like the new Barbie movie. Like, and they don't even care, man. They don't care.
I want all of us to see that movie and then just rail it, because everything I've heard is just.
I don't know, man. I like
I don't think I can sit through it.
Gerwig. I like Robbie. I like who's the guy that plays Ken? I like him.
Ryan Gosling. Yeah, he's great. But
He's great.
I don't know. I mean, I saw Oppenheimer, and I that was freaking amazing. I want to do a show on that, but
hey, wait a second. Just before we totally get off the government and the conspiracies and the like, back to Obama's third term. Has it been reported by the media a lot that Biden just forked over another few billion over to Iran?
I heard something about that. Yeah,
I've heard about it, but yeah, it hasn't been big news.
I think it's $6 billion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, why?
Supposedly so that these hostages could get house arrest instead of jail.
But I mean the real why.
No, why do you think? Why do you think?
I think they know where the bodies are buried, and we're never going to know the answer to many of these questions. Like, what was it I heard recently that and this is probably old news, but all of the Kennedy assassination paperwork has come out, and I want to say that I heard that it was pretty much confirmed that there were 2 shooters. Is that right? Did you guys hear anything?
I don't know anything about that.
I don't know, so I don't want to get quoted on that. But I want to say that there was something that was alarming about it, like that it couldn't have just been. I want to say that it was confirmed that it was 2 shooters, but.
Well, Zeus, I have an idea. I think it's your turn next week, and we could talk about the JFK conspiracy next week.
Dude, I would love to.
Why not?
I don't want to talk about the JFK conspiracy.
No,
you just did.
Oh, maybe the Barbie movie. That's fine.
Yeah, but wait. I got 2 issues with the Barbie movie episode idea. Okay,
you have to watch it. That's one.
No. I have no problem going to see it. Two issues I have with it. One, that would have been a good episode like 3 or 4 weeks ago. It's not now.
Yeah.
And 2, most importantly, you guys, without me, I believe, did a whole review episode on The Sound of Freedom when that would have been a big podcast, and that never even saw air.
Yeah, why hasn't that been posted?
I don't know.
Because
I figured it was so raucous, over the top, offensive that they pulled the plug on it.
I haven't. I think it's 127, and then Tom was asking about the thumb for 129, and I'm like, I don't like yelling at clouds, and I have no idea because 129 was the.
I keep telling Tom that I cannot do anything on YouTube. That every time it asks for my credit card and all this other information. And I'm not doing it, so he just put it in there, and he never put it up.
Oh, okay.
I realized
that was a little spat between you and Tom.
No, it's not even a spat. He's just a ball buster. He thinks that I'm making it up. There's 2 things I can't do. I can't record here because bandwidth is no good, and
you're recording fine.
I'm recording.
Oh, you can't record. I got you.
No, because if I do it, remember the one that came in all choppy? It's not good. I can broadcast. I guess I can send out info, but I can't pull it in. And I love Tom, but he really, I think he really thinks that I'm like dodging it. Believe me, I would be fine with posting it. So it is in the drive. If somebody wants to put it up, by all means.
I will look. But yeah, otherwise, 30 years from now, people are going to be like, I have the Foz 127 episode that has never been published.
Maybe we keep it as our.
It's gonna be like the super underground, the gold ticket,
the lost episodes.
Well, we still have Toby Hana.
Oh,
go through.
Oh yeah,
I've gone through it. I haven't finished, but there's a lot of good stuff there. I
You're
mean,
kidding.
no, there is. There's a lot of good stuff. I think out of like 3 or 4 hours, there's like a 40-minute interesting episode.
Here's
I
the
really
other-
do. Like
I
we
think
did
that-
say some interesting things.
I
we would
think
be
that should.
remiss- I'm sorry.
What?
No, go ahead, Zeus.
I was going to say we'd be remiss if we do not bring up the Friends of Zeus podcast playlist, which has recently been
Oh
released.
yeah.
And it's kind of fucking killer.
Yeah, it's great.
We didn't write the songs, but we picked some damn good ones.
And I'm sorry that like 6 of my songs are 10 plus minutes. I didn't mean that. So sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I put a 13-minute Iron Maiden epic on there, so
and
I
it's
can't
not
wait
like
to
Mother.
listen.
It's not like Mother by Pink Floyd is a short song.
no, it is. It's like 5 minutes.
That's a long song. I mean, most songs are what, 2-3
no.
minutes.
No, they're not. No,
So
not
wait,
anyone.
we got to post that link on this episode.
Yeah, we'll put it in the description.
Yeah, it's on
song that
Spotify.
I really have issue with, and it's not to pick on Dez, but "Life Is a Highway" by what is it, Rascal Flatts or whatever.
Yeah, you hate that.
It's nothing compared to the Tom Cochrane of Red Rider fame. That version kicks ass.
Life is a highway.
It's the same song. It's a pop country band doing a cover of a like popish song. Yeah, it didn't bother me.
A hard rock band song. What were they? Lunatic Fringe, Red Rider, Tom Cochrane, right?
I think so.
So
Yeah.
I think I need to hear Tom or Jack say the magic words.
Is it that time?
Yeah,
you're
because- But well, we're
You're out of
talking about
gas?
other episodes, and I'm
Yeah.
out of gas. My
All right,
blinker
well-
has been on for like 6 miles. My
Okay.
left blinker.
All right. Well, you heard the man. We've been on for a while, apparently, and it's time to wrap things up. Let's go.
All right.
Sign us off.
Goodbye, podcast land.